Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hello Word, your daily dose of English vocabulary. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm thrilled to have you join me today as we explore another fascinating word. Today's word is despite. So, what does despite mean? Well, despite is a preposition meaning in spite of. It shows that something happened or is true even though something else might have prevented it. Think of it as saying something happened even with an obstacle in the way. We use it to show contrast or surprise. For example, despite the rain, we went for a walk. Here, the rain is the obstacle, but the walk still happened. It's a great word for adding nuance to your sentences. Now, let's look at some synonyms for despite. Some good alternatives are in spite of and notwithstanding. These words have very similar meanings and can often be used interchangeably. Let's see them in action. Instead of saying despite the cost, I bought the car, we can say in spite of the cost, I bought the car. See how the meaning stays the same? Similarly, we could say, notwithstanding the difficulties, they completed the project. Notwithstanding is a bit more formal, but it carries the same sense of something happening even with challenges. Now, let's consider situations where you might use notwithstanding. Imagine you are presenting a project. You might say, notwithstanding some initial setbacks, the project was a success. This acknowledges the problems, but emphasizes the positive outcome. Or perhaps you're discussing someone's accomplishments. You could say, notwithstanding his lack of formal education, he became a brilliant engineer. This highlights his achievement despite a potential disadvantage. Another way to think about notwithstanding is as a way of setting something aside or disregarding it for the sake of a specific point. It's a useful tool for adding precision to your speech and writing, particularly in more formal settings. Okay, so we've covered synonyms. What about antonyms? Well, because despite suggests contrast, an antonym would indicate agreement or something happening because of something else. Consider words like because of or due to. These words show cause and effect, the opposite of the contrast that despite expresses. For instance, despite the cold, I went swimming is the opposite of because of the cold, I stayed inside. The first sentence highlights an action happening in spite of the cold, whereas the second shows an action happening as a result of the cold. Another antonym could be thanks to. While because of and due to can be used for both positive and negative outcomes, thanks to usually refers to a positive result. For example, despite feeling tired, I finished the race is different from thanks to my training, I finished the race. In the first example, completing the race is surprising given the tiredness. In the second, finishing the race is a direct result of the training. Now, let's think about how you can use despite in everyday life. You might say, despite being late, I still managed to catch the bus. Or, despite having a headache, I went to the party. These are simple everyday situations where you can use despite to show that something happened even with an obstacle. You could also say, despite the bad reviews, the movie was actually quite good. Or, despite the traffic, we arrived on time. These examples show despite in slightly more complex scenarios, but the basic principle remains the same. Something happened even though something else might have prevented it. Here are some more usage examples of despite in sentences and phrases. Despite his age, he is still very active. Despite her shyness, she gave a wonderful presentation. Despite the risk, they decided to invest in the company. Despite all the evidence, he maintained his innocence. Despite repeated warnings, he continued to make the same mistake. You can also use despite at the beginning of a sentence. For example, despite being tired, I had a great time. Remember, the word that follows despite is usually a noun or a gerund, a verb ending in ing that functions as a noun. So, you can say despite the rain, or despite feeling tired. You cannot directly follow despite with a subject and a verb. Instead, use although or even though. For example, you can say although it was raining, we went for a walk, but not despite it was raining, we went for a walk. Let's recap what we've learned today. Despite is a preposition meaning in spite of. It shows that something happened or is true even though something else might have prevented it. Synonyms include in spite of and notwithstanding, while antonyms include because of, due to, and thanks to. We've also looked at numerous examples of how you can use despite in everyday conversations and writing. Remember, practice makes perfect, so try to use despite in your own sentences whenever you get the chance. Thank you so much for joining me on Hello Word today. I hope you found this episode helpful. Before we go, I have a small request. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to Hello Word and leave a review. Your support helps others find the show, so we can continue to grow our community of English language learners. Now, for today's challenge, I encourage you to create your own sentence using the word despite and share it as a comment below the video. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Until next time, keep learning and keep practicing.